Hi, this is Charles Crobot from Boca Raton, Florida, and I play at the Boca Raton Resort and Club. This is Golf Smarter number 980. Enjoy the podcast.
If you go to ask a touring pro, do you misread greens that cause missed putts? Their typical answer is going to be occasionally, but not often. And then other pros will reply, I never misread a green because I work harder than all others. That translation to that answer is I memorized each putt for each tournament, 4 days times 4 pin placements times 4 directions times 18 holes. So there's some brainwashing that goes on into their head. This kind of green reading brainwashing that continues to this day. And frankly, I don't blame the tour pro for succumbing to this brainwashing, since you're standing over putts with zero confidence. If you don't have confidence in your green read, that will affect your putting stroke negatively.
EGOS, the expert green reading operating system that's based in math, with surveyor Andrew Walters.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Andy.
Great to be here, Fred.
Congratulations. You're the first episode of our 20th year. We've just completed 19 years of the podcast.
Wow.
And this is our first, so 980.
I didn't know they were doing podcasts that far back.
That was the problem. Nobody did. But I love talking about all the way back. I've always loved to talk about putting because there's always one more thing we can learn. And I think the most important thing is they don't all drop. No matter how good you are, they don't all drop, right? Or do they?
Well, I would argue with that.
Please
10
do.
feet, they should all drop, especially for a tour pro, because they're the best of the cream of the crop.
Yeah, but the percentage of even the tour pros from 10 feet is what, about 50%?
And guess what, Fred? That's all going to change.
Why?
Because EGOS, Expert Green Reading Operating System, is pure math. It's infallible in the sense that if you do something wrong, it can be corrected. And tour pros take 2,000 green reads in a season, which is what the book and other things I send. And you can imagine how much expertise they're going to have with that many green reads and how good they're going to get. And if they ever have a problem, they just give me a holler, and then we go to that exact spot and I'll show them what they did wrong, because it's math-based, 100% math-based.
And is that your background, is the math-based, not the golf-based side of it?
Exactly. Well, of course, they intertwine.
Sure.
My background is where, I had this 8-foot putt that I had money on. They had a $5 Nassau. I make it. I win $25, speech money for the kids and all that sort of stuff. And I've had this putt. I've been playing this 18th green for 15 years. And I said, well, that's going to do a little slight left break. And I hit it. And it fell off the table like it broke off the table to the right. And I go, whoa. No. So I walk off the green. I'm all mad. I'm going to find somebody to teach me green reading, expert green reading. Well, who would that be? Somebody that knows topography, land contours, maps, ground slope. Well, I begin to realize as a civil engineer, professional engineer, that's what we start with every project that we start. A bridge, a building, a road. It's all ground slopes and all of that. Then I began to realize I was the expert. So I sat down and I figured it out. And I haven't misread a green since.
Wow. Well, so you say you were the expert because you are a civil engineer?
That's correct. It is absolute. You apply math to projects to fix it. Yes. I am a professional civil engineer.
Okay. So
and surveyor. answer.
I want to get rid of this myth immediately, if in fact it is a myth or it's a fact. And that is, everyone says, oh, it always breaks to the ocean. Oh, it always breaks to the mountains. Oh, is that, or is it just, from what I've learned in talking to golf course architects, they tell me, no, it breaks, it's irrigation. It's all about irrigation, and it breaks to where the water is going to flow.
All 100% nonsense. Matter of fact, I teach that you completely ignore any of that stuff. You don't want outside influences to bother what you do, getting the exact break in front of you. So architects, of course, most of the time, the drain flow of a green is going to be from a mountain to an ocean, but not all the time. Uh-huh. So it's just total myth. Matter of fact, I found most all of green reading is voodoo nowadays. There are basically 4 types of green reading. All right. And all of them don't work. And you can see it on TV all the time. And these are the professionals, Spieths, and, all the best. And the 4 types of green reading is, one is staring. You walk all around it, you look at it, but that's actually what causes the problem. Optical illusions are the only reason you would ever misread a green, period. Optical illusions. And staring is the actual cause of the problem. The other way to read a green is somewhat common these days, is foot feeling. Well, foot feeling, it doesn't work. It's no math behind it. And I can say that is because you go find an algebra book, a trig book, a calculus book, nowhere are you going to find in there a chapter on feeling. It's just not going to happen. And then there's map contours, which have been banned anyway. So math contours are, and then again, they have no math either that an untrained person can't see. And then the other way is memorization. So if you memorize, you have, if you're a tour pro, you have 4 days of a tournament, 4 sides of the green, different distances and all that. And basically unless you're Rain Man or something, it becomes untenable. So, so anyway, all 4 of those ways don't produce any results that EGOS can do, because they have no math. You just can't do it. So we're still in the primitive age of green reading until, of course, this comes out. Okay.
And how long have you been practicing EGOS? And EGOS, we should just clarify is what your system is, the Expert Green Reading Operating System.
I've been doing it since 1990.
Okay.
So.
And you haven't missed a read since.
That is correct, except for when I make an error myself. I don't play as often as I used to. So then I got to go back and see what I did, what I messed up.
So then we're just talking about distance control and speed control.
The two are a perfect late read is for a putt that a perfect aim line is a putt that goes in at the speed that you want it to go in. Do you want to die it in the hole? Do you want to ram it into the hole? Or do you want to have it, if it has a cellophane top on top of it, it'd go 12 inches past. So speed and aim and are tied together. They're married together. So EGOS will give you that exact line for any way you want to hold the putt. And that's all done on calibration at the practice green, which is detailed in my book.
Okay. And again, tell everyone the name of the book so we can find it.
Oh, that's a good point. It's kind of.
Do you not remember the name?
Well,
come on.
Math and Analysis Green Reading Methodology on the PGA Tour Today and Tomorrow. Introducing EGOS.
Okay. And is it
Now you can
available?
understand why I'm a little hesitant just to burn it up now.
Exactly. And I'll put that in the show notes. And is it available on Amazon or
Yes,
wherever we get books? Okay.
Amazon,
Okay.
Amazon
Okay.
Kindle, and it's
Great.
$27 for a
Okay.
lifetime skill, I like to say.
Yeah. Well, then that's a worthwhile investment, I would think,
I
especially
would think so.
if your frustration is there. And everyone has room to become a better putter. So, we can talk about the hardware all we want, but until you learn how to read a green, it really doesn't matter what the hardware is sometimes.
That's right. If you haven't read the green read properly, your putting stroke matters not.
Right. And that would
You
be
know,
where your start, as long as you can get it on the starting line that you intend.
at the speed you intend.
At the speed, the line
You have
and
to
the
have
speed.
speed because they are married together. And my contention is tour pros, 155 tee off every weekend, and they're the best in the world. And it's my contention that those tour pros can do that. They can hit the ball where they want to, at the speed they want to, all the time, or they wouldn't be the top 155 in the world.
Andy, tell me about the people that you've worked with. Have you been working with PGA Tour pros or college players or Korn Ferry, the guys trying to get their way up to the tour?
That's a great question, and it's a kind of a little bit of a long answer. And
Take your time.
The I have talked to a bunch of people about it, including some teachers and stuff like that. But what I'm finding is that there is a tremendous bias out there about green reading. And when you present something that you say is going to work, there's a tendency that they don't believe it. But I've done it to some tour pro teachers. Does it matter if I name maybe Derek Ueda? And, he absolutely gets it and loves it. Another one is Blair Phillip. Another worked with Barney Adams. And I've get some ex-tour pros that just absolutely get it because, again, they're mathematically inclined. But if you go to ask a touring pro, for example, do you misread greens that cause missed putts? And, their typical answer is going to be occasionally, but not often. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then other pros will reply, I never misread a green because I work harder than all others. Well, it took a while, but that translation to that answer is I memorized each putt for each tournament, 4 days times 4 pin placements times 4 directions times 18 holes. So there's some brainwashing that goes on into their head. And I call it this kind of green reading brainwashing that continues to this day. And frankly, I don't blame the tour pro for succumbing to this brainwashing, since you're standing over putts with zero confidence. If you don't have confidence in your green read, that will affect your putting stroke negatively. So that brainwashing is there. So I have that bias that I have to overcome when I show them that it'll actually work. And that's been very difficult to do. And that's why I'm in the middle of a topic, trying to get in front of a guy like Bryson, who I know has mathematical proclivity, and will literally, when I get halfway through a 20-minute demo, he's going to come and grab me and thank me, as did Blair Phillip and a couple other gentlemen that I know of, because they just get it. So that's, I guess, back to your question. Yeah, I have. But unfortunately, most young, aspiring collegiates and everything, and even tour pros themselves, say, if I don't see it being used on TV, I'm not going to get involved. And it is an incredible bias that I had no idea existed until the years I started getting into this.
Yeah. And I've come across that so much myself. I recently
Really?
went and yeah, I in a sense that, here, as we talked about this, I've interviewed hundreds of golf instructors and I've learned a lot from the golf instructor perspective. But when I go out to play with some people at a country club who play every week with the same four guys on the same course every week, and I start sharing some of the things I've learned, they're like, nah, yeah, no, doesn't exist. Yeah, you're wrong. I don't see it. So I get feel like I'm banging my head against the wall sometimes too. That's why I pretty much just like to ask the questions and learn from people like you.
Well,
um,
well, I again, the people with mathematical proclivity, I've developed a putter that you use with the system. It's a surveying instrument putter, and I've
mm,
sold 500 of those putters worldwide. All right,
mhm,
so they're people that do get it, and
sure.
it's just unfortunately I don't have anybody on the Tour Pro circuit yet that will do it and use it. But I'm totally convinced if I can get somebody out there, it's going to take their PPRs down into the 27s or maybe even lower, which is always top five. And from
Wow.
there, I'm convinced it's going to go viral, and especially a Tour Pro because he's, as I explain in my book and all, he's going to get 10 more looks at making birdie. This is with the average Tour Pro. Uh, at making birdie than he has now with using EGOS, especially with taking 2,000 EGOS green reads in a season, how expert he's going to get. And then the other thing is, you know what? Even if a Tour Pro doesn't even want to do it, because I don't see John Daly doing this, and I don't see Bubba Watson doing this. So why don't you just tell your caddy to do it? All right. So the caddy becomes really, really good at it. So, and I think that he'll start to have trust in his caddy as the ball disappears all the time. You know, so there's that option as well, but it just hasn't happened yet. So I'm hoping it will happen. In my lifetime.
I hope it happens for your lifetime as well. So I am and have been for 4 or 5 years now a big fan of the lab golf putters.
Mm-hmm.
That are lie angle balanced versus toe or heel balanced. Um, and they claim to have a lot of science behind that as well. Um, the putter that you have developed, what makes it unique?
If you were to take, I call the putter the PSNI EGOS, which stands an acronym. I'm big into acronyms, putting and surveying instrument.
Okay.
Is that if you take your fingers and put your fingers out like you're pointing, and then put your putter over it and balance it, you'll come to some toe hang on most putters. 45, 13 degrees, whatever. Well, the PSNI EGOS, you can put it in any direction, the toe pointing in any direction, and it'll just stay there. So it's not I call it an all balanced putter. There are face balanced putters that'll, if you do what I just said, the face will be looking straight up to the sky. Axis One makes a putter that it'll be 100% or it'll be 90 degrees pointing down at the ground. And the lab
But we don't
putter,
putt that way. Right? We don't putt
what?
that way. But we don't putt
Well,
that
that's
way. We
true.
don't hold the putter.
All that's true. But the perfect, I've sold quite a few putters just because they love the feel of an all balanced putter.
Yeah.
But the trick with an all balanced putter is that it becomes a surveying instrument, and it doesn't really matter where your toe is pointing. And so that's why I sell that. But you can use your own putter if you just know what position to hold it every time. And I've been doing battle with the USGA, and it says, well, if you mark the putter with a mark slot, put a little dot and center it and all that. But the USGA has sent me back, this has been about 10 years of correspondence. He keeps sending back, oh, no, that's illegal because you can't put any marking on a putter other than decorative or to align the face when you're setting the putter down. So I've been through all that as well. Now the lab putter, that is a little different creature. And I do know an awful lot about putters. I believe that they've got a certain angle to the ground, a lie, as you would say, and they make the putter balanced in that lie, which is the lie where in the swing plane you have. So that's what makes them special. Again, you would have to take that putter and try and find out when you hold it doing EGOS, what makes it a true, perfect vertical, in other ways, a surveying instrument. I haven't got one yet, but I've got about every other putter known to man. So.
Andy, I'm not mathematically inclined. I may say I'm even math challenged. So how can I make EGOS work for me? I'm the creative type.
Well, that's a great question. And the book goes through the 3 steps that you just need to do and memorize and in order to get into the proper positions to get this angle gap, I call it, right in front of your eyes on every putt. And the 3 steps invoke the math that is involved. So I've got 2 pages in the book of the actual math, 10th grade geometry, proven, as you would see, by a professor. But you don't need to know that. It is all you have to do is know how to stand, where to stand, and how to hold the putter. Just those 3 things, and you can become an expert green reader immediately.
Okay, how to stand, where to stand, and the third one, again, because I'm taking notes, how to hold the putter. So yes, grip is what you're saying.
The grip? Yeah, how to hold the putter. You have to put a putter out in front of you, and I don't like to use the word, but everybody else does, like you're plumb bobbing, okay?
Yeah.
So, again, and before I get into that, let me just explain what I call plumb bobbing. I mentioned the 4 ways of green reading. Well, one of those ways, excuse me here.
If it's for me, just take a message.
One of those methods is what I consider staring with the putter in front of you. It is that's what I call plumb bobbing, because the putter in front of you does absolutely nothing if you don't know all the other steps on how to stand or where to stand.
Let's get into it. Love this.
Okay. Let's start with the first step is to, and let me.
And it's how to stand, is you're saying the first step.
First step is how to stand. So the first step on how to stand is you need to take a wide stance, which gets your spine perpendicular to the ground slope. All right. And this is where we're going to create an angle gap in front of your face with the putter and some imaginary lines that you're going to draw. So wide stance, don't tilt your head or your torso or anything in any direction, and you wouldn't know which way to tilt it on subtle slopes anyway. So you can, here we go. So anyway, that's how to stand. And it is important that you just stand the same way every time, so that if there are any quirks about you having one leg shorter than another, it'll all come out in the calibration. So that's how to stand. The second thing is where to stand. Well, you need to stand where the ball will break. So when you see people plumb bobbing and the ball is in front of them, that's a mistake right away, because you don't putt backwards. So you need to go stand up around or just slightly in front of the ball with the ball between your legs, spread your legs, stand correctly, and that's where you going to get the read or the slope of the ground as the ball travels towards the hole. Now, let's say in my book covers a 10-foot putt to win the U.S. Open. So you go there, you take a stance right in front of the ball, right at the ball, take a read. Then in the minute you take a read, you're going to have an angle gap. And from the practice green calibration, you're going to know exactly where to aim that ball for the speed you like to make the ball. Okay. Now, the question is, will it continue to break that way all the way? Does the slope remain the same? So since you're going to win the U.S. Open with this 10-footer, you go up to the hole, right at the hole with the hole right between your legs, and take the same read, do everything the same way as you did over the ball. And you look and you see an angle gap. If it's the same angle gap, you know that the break is perfect, that it'll stay the same, and that your read is perfect. If, for example, though, you take a read and there is no angle gap, the putter goes right through your first object, you know that it is flattened out at the hole. So you need to adjust, and you need to adjust your aim line a little less, and of course adjust for speed as well. It all becomes a real feel at that time. A proportional feel is what I call it.
Okay. Can you explain to me what you mean by angle gap?
Okay. When you are
I never took geometry.
Well, when you're standing at the appropriate place and you're standing where you're supposed to, and you're looking at the cup, all right? So you run a ground line right straight to your groin, the middle of your groin, an imaginary ground line. And when you get about 2 or 3 feet in front of your, on that ground line, you'll see a second object, or you'll see a little object on the ground that you run in this ground line. Or it could be a spike mark, it could be a piece of dirt, it could be anything. So you take your putter up, holding it correctly and at arm's length, and you put the very bottom of the putter onto that spike mark or whatever. And then you look up to find the cup. And the cup is off to the left, you know you have a right breaking putt. All right. And how much of that gap you see between the center line of the cup and the shaft, you know exactly where the aim line is going to be. It may be 3 more of those gaps. It may be 4 more of those gaps, or it may be just 2 more of those gaps. That's your aim line for the speed you prefer to hold the putt. And that, when you get good at it, that is instantaneous. And all that becomes because you got your spine and you've created this angle gap with your body. And then you threw in the true vertical putter to expose that angle gap right there in front of your face every time. And you instantly know from calibration how much that ball is going to break in a perfect aim line. Now, again, this goes back to the question you asked about the mountain over here, or the ocean over here. Do I take into account any of that? And you go, no, you best not even look at it, because if you do look at it and you take your read and all of a sudden it shows an absolute straight putt, and you're going, no, can't be, because I see it falling from the mountain to the ocean. Now you got doubt in your mind. All right. And you never need that. So I suggest don't even look for the mountain or the other, because then way you don't even get confused. But over time, when you start making all these putts with EGOS, you're not going to care what the topography is. So all of that, what I just said, guess how fast that is and how quick that is. We just eliminated slow play on the course for all tour pros.
What about, if it's a double breaker? They happen. It's going to break one way, and then as it gets closer to the hole, it's going to break a different way. How do you read those?
Great question. So you'll say you got a 20-footer, and it's in the book as well. You take your first read right over the ball, all right, and you got a nice little angle gap, and you go, okay, and of course the putter's over here, the cup's over here, which means left break. So you got your boom, 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 you got the line, you already know that. but you just want to confirm that it's the same. So you go halfway and you take another read, and all of a sudden, holy cow, the putter's on the other side of the hole. And this ground here is right, is left to right break, just the opposite of what you just took it there. All right. So now you're going, whoa, this is something. So then you go up by the hole, do it again, and you see that continued left break, or the right break, the opposite direction break. So then you adjust your original break and you hit it appropriately. And you can practice that again and get good at that on the practice green as well. Do you follow all that?
Well, you asked me if I follow all that. All of it? No. Some of it? Yeah.
if I had an illustration right in front of me, you would be able to follow it a lot.
Sure. I think that's why we should remind people to buy the book. If
Absolutely.
This isn't all intriguing to you, buy the book. It's
Yes.
going to be worth the investment. And it's not even an investment.
You're going to be able to pay for the investment just in 4-man scrambles or Lauderdales or whatever you call it. Because I never lose one of those. And the reason is because I insist on putting first. And if I don't make it, you didn't waste the 3 other guys, putting it up there, pretending they know which way the ball's going or this sort of stuff.
So when you're at your peak of playing and you're using your EGOS system, how many putts around are you looking at for yourself? I'm sure it's not 18.
Well, it should be, but then again, I don't play enough.
It should be.
I don't play enough to get into that expertise. My fellow players, when I was at the peak of playing, they basically said, "Andy, you don't really hit the ball that good. Basically what they were saying is I'm not on the greens as much GIRs." So, I get it up. If I get it up in 6 feet, it's just dead. And I never.
You don't
really
miss 6-footers.
Huh?
You don't miss 6-footers. You don't miss 10-footers.
Well, at the peak, when I was playing, I never even thought about missing a 6-footer. It was, matter of fact, they kick it back half the time. They knew it was good.
That was a gimme, a 10-foot gimme.
6-footers are gimme with this. They will be gimmies with tour pros.
Yeah. Well, we would hope so. And you talked about how they would say, well, if it's not on TV, I don't want to use it. That's kind of like what they're talking about aim point, I would think.
Well, aim point's on TV. It's worked its way into it, even though it doesn't work. But that just shows the desperation that tour pros have. I mean, Jim Nance absolutely hates it. He's come out with articles. Can't stand it when you turn your back to the cup and then it's slow and it's goofy looking and there's no math behind it. But other than that, it's just desperation. They don't trust they're staring at it anymore. So they're trying to find some alternative. And somehow Aim Point got out there with Adam Scott, a few others. I think Adam was one of the first.
Yeah, and then getting it on TV. Getting the
I agree.
And why do you think it doesn't work?
Aim point?
Yeah.
Well, again, I'll go right back to there's no math.
I see.
Your foot feeling, and you're going to have to present some kind of 4% something, and then you relate that to fingers. But what math book do you go to? Calculus, trig, algebra, differential equations, all of which I took as a civil engineer. Where is there a chapter on feeling? There isn't. There is no math. It takes math to work. And
right, but you're also introducing your body
to
the math.
That's correct. Your body sets up the structure, sets up your spine that creates the angle. All right. So that's math. Anyway,
I mean you're introducing your body in the stroke. not in the setup. I mean, what you're explaining to me seems like all part of the setup.
It is.
And not necessarily the stroke.
We're talking expert green reading. Now, if you can't hit the ball where you want to hit it at the speed you want to hit it, that's a whole nother subject. Okay. And it's my contention that there isn't a tour pro that can't do that 99.9% of the time. That can hit, that they hit it where they want to hit it at the speed they want to hit it almost all the time.
I see. So you said you don't like the word plumb bobbing.
That's correct.
Why is that taboo here?
Because it does nothing. It's basically staring, just holding the putter up. The best you could ever get out of it is maybe if you look at the cup and the cup's at a big slant, you can see that there's a big slant that the cup may help you a little bit when the ball starts to get close to the hole. But it has nothing to do with what the ground slope is outside, 20 feet away. Mm-hmm. So, and people have looked at my system and said, oh, that's just plumb bobbing. And then they assume they even know what plumb bobbing is. Have you ever had anybody explain to you what plumb bobbing was? Well, I got 88 pages in a book that shows you exactly what EGOS is.
I got it. So we talked about how to stand and where to stand, but you said the third part was how to hold the grip.
That's correct. How to hold the putter.
How to hold the putter when you're doing the EGOS system. Explain that to me, please.
Okay. In doing the EGOS system, you have to create a true vertical. Same thing as if you had a string on a plumb weight. All right. Mm-hmm. You want this putter to be an absolute true vertical in front of your eyes. So like you create the angle gap that your spine is at. Okay. So you hold the putter at the bottom of the grip very lightly, and you put it at arm's length, and you hold it this way at the same time. And then you run that line, that imaginary line, to the second object, and you put the bottom of it on there to create the C. So that you need to make your putter a true visual perfect as you look at it. In essence, it becomes a surveying instrument. So,
and you're doing this so it's exactly perpendicular to the ground.
It's exactly vertical to the world. Exactly vertical to the world, visually from where you're looking at it. Okay. Uh-huh. It might not be that way any other way. So a toe hang putter, that has a certain toe hang, if you can hold it, it'll actually veer off to the right or left as it balances each other. So you don't have a perfect vertical on most toe hang putters. But in certain directions or in a certain dimension, when you get the toe at a certain degree, it will be what you call center balance vertically, and it will. You can use your own putter if you know exact position to hold it and get it into. But again, when you got like a 2-inch break or a 2.5-inch break, you need the best surveying instrument putter you got. Or you get the putter right every time. And so if a tour pro complains he's missing short putts that don't break much, first thing I'm going to do is say, well, we need to you get your putter in the proper position. So when you're
I'm a little confused about the math part.
Sure.
And I'm confused about math, period. But when it comes to the EGOS system, I'm confused about where the math part falls in.
Well, the math part is 10th grade geometry.
Right? That's why I never did that.
Most people memorize it, take a test, and then forget about it if they even take it.
Right.
But that's a high school course. So the math part is if I'm watching you do it, and if you're not creating the angles and the gaps, instantly, I can fix it. I can say, oh, you're not holding your putter this way. You're tilting your body when you're standing. or I can say you're not standing in the proper position, and it's all just instantaneous to fix. And we can keep fixing it until you get it right.
All right. Well, again, the book is called Math and Analysis Green Reading Methodology on PGA Tour Today and Tomorrow by Andrew J. Walters, PE.
Yeah.
Available. That we'll put a link for it in the show notes, and hopefully it's going to help you out a lot. It's fascinating to me. And if you do it right, there's no question it's going to help. Right, Andy?
Oh, it'll make you the best putter in your group by far if nobody else is doing it. And it'll take a person like Bryson and make him the best putter in the world. And that's a guarantee. It's in the book.
Well, I'd love to tell you that Bryson listens to this podcast, but I'd be lying. I cannot imagine that he does. Andy, it was great talking to you. I really appreciate the education, and best of luck with this method.
Hey, thank you, Fred. I appreciate you too.